I'm here at the Finance Magnates Africa Summit with Jimmy Moyaha from Lebowa Capital, and it's so nice to see you again here this year for the second year. What is it about this conference that is so valuable for you and keeps you coming back?
Thanks, Adam. It's nice to be back. I think having been part of the inaugural conference, you come in with certain expectations. I mean, I had a pre-existing experience with Finance Magnates, having been to the London Summit a couple of years ago, and so when they announced that they were launching the Africa Summit, I thought it was a good opportunity to get involved and to better improve and better showcase the benefits of our industry. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and judgment that kind of happens around the financial services space, particularly where it relates to trading and retail trading within South Africa and on the African continent. So for me, this is an opportunity to be able to showcase what the industry is capable of, what the market is capable of, and why it makes sense as an investment case in some respects. Yeah.
Really, there's been an explosion of retail trading in Africa and South Africa. You know, what have been some of the challenges that come with that, and what are some of the misunderstandings that you know, either foreign brokers or foreign financial services participants have about Africa and South Africa in particular?
I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is that it's going to be easy, is that the regulation is not on par with global regulation, and that's a serious misunderstanding, I hope, or misconception I hope people don't have and don't bring into the market. As someone that's operated under ESMA, operated under ASIC, under the FCA in the UK, and even under the DIFC in Dubai, you understand global regulation, and I've seen where our local regulation has come from, where it is and where it's sort of heading to. And one of the things that we spoke about, I mean, yesterday on the regulatory panel that I was a part of, we discussed the importance of regulation in a young market like South Africa and Africa. Unlike the other regulators that I previously mentioned, they're operating in developed markets where these kind of products have been around a lot longer and have had a lot more exposure towards a retail client. In South Africa and in Africa, this is still a fairly new kind of model or fairly new kind of market for people to tap into by comparison. And because of that, there's a misconception that because it's new, it's not properly regulated. And that's a serious misconception.
Right. What about investing in Africa in general, South Africa? You know, there's amazing opportunities here, but a lot of capital is hesitant to come here because they don't understand the market and just to get involved in Africa. What message would you give to them?
Well, they are local experts. Some of us have been in the financial services space for close on 10 years. I've got individuals that I know that I work with that have got more than 30 years of experience in this space. They are local experts, and I think one of the big things that international companies often forget when they come into a market is if you're entering a new market that you don't understand, the strategies and approach that you may have used in another market might not necessarily work in this market. Reach out to the local experts, understand the market you're stepping into and dealing with, because each market has its own nuances. I know this having operated for multinationals, having worked around the world, that each client base and each demographic has its own little nuances and its own little soft spots. Africa is no different. South Africa is no different. Understand the culture, understand the environment you're stepping into, and then after that, it's a worthwhile investment.
Right. Now, switching gears a little bit to retail traders, you've worked in traditional markets, alternative asset management, and retail education. And what is the demand from the retail side, or what do you want retail traders to understand here, or what do they want to know before they trade and as they're trading, or what do they need?
So the retail market looks for good conditions. A lot of the retail market in South Africa looks for good, favorable trading conditions and all of that. And that's one side of the conversation. The other side of the conversation is the service providers that operate in the market need to bring forth the proper resources for a retail market. I think there's another bit of a misconception that, or perhaps a misunderstanding that you can just come into the market with your existing product and not adapt it to the South African market and employ the same things. And I'll give you a simple example from a retail perspective. A lot of retail brokers, your average deposit size that they measure for a client is upwards of $100 to $200 for what they consider a qualified account. In South Africa, that amount alone is significantly higher than what retail investors earn as a monthly wage in South Africa. So you have to take into account, again, nuances of certain areas, is that South Africa has a 20-to-1 exchange rate with the euro, 19-to-1 with the dollar, 23-to-1 with the rand. That is a factor that retail traders look at, that they don't have as much disposable income as developed markets. We've got a high unemployment rate, we've got a high youth unemployment rate, and that means that a lot of your retail demographic is a youth-based retail demographic trying to change their own personal financial situations with very limited capital to do so. And if anyone comes into that space and comes into that market, understanding those nuances, you understand how to service that market better. I mean, you mentioned around the educational side of it. We've built an educational course that we got accredited for the purposes of improving the quality of information that goes out to a retail audience. And I think that's what the market needs. The market needs a concerted effort from all players, whether it's regulator, whether it's broker, whether it's retail investor themselves, whether it's educator, to better improve the quality of what we're going to produce in the long term, so that the developing market becomes a developed market, particularly in this industry.
And finally, you know, we're here and we're at a live event. It's so nice to go face to face and meet people, and it adds to that trust factor in financial markets. So, you know, what do you get from coming here and meeting people face to face? I mean, a lot of these people you've educated or you've interacted with, and what's the value you see in the digital world in coming face to face and meeting people?
It's a trust thing. So one of the nuances in any market, in any financial market, when you're dealing with people's money, there's a trust element that comes with that. And it's more so sensitive in a market that has been the victim of many a scam. The trust has been eroded by players or participants coming into the market with ill intentions. And that creates a trust barrier from your retail investor, your professional investor, or anyone that wants to participate in this financial market. They come into it apprehensive and they say, but what if this is going to be another scam? So we're having to deal with a lot of cleanup from what's previously happened, a lot of bad apples in the past, and that's damaged a lot of the good that exists. There are fantastic players or participants that operate in this space, that have brought their businesses to the space and that have invested in Africa and in South Africa in particular. And they are also struggling to navigate the minefield of things that are beyond their control. They didn't create that environment, but they have to function and operate in that environment. And I suppose that's kind of where you see that the retail market wants to know that they can trust you. They want to know that they can see you, they can understand that if I've got a query, if I've got a concern, it will be addressed by an individual that I can speak to, and not somebody that's sitting 5,000 kilometers away from where I am that I cannot reach. And I think that part of it becomes very important at events like these.
Thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure to see you here.
Thanks for having me, Adam.